Go, Mei Chao, I'm ready to bring your stories to life. Right before my son was to start his freshman year of college, he climbed onto the windowsill and threatened me. If I didn't withdraw 1.5 million from my savings to send him abroad, he would jump and end his life right there. Seeing his resolve, I gritted my teeth and agreed. Little did I know, once overseas, he plunged into gambling. In less than a year, his tuition was gone and he was expelled. Back home, he just lay around, refusing to work, holed up in his room, gambling online. When his debts piled up, he'd demand more money from me. I was forced to work 3 jobs a day. Exhausted and hungry, I just returned home, not even having time to cook when he shoved me to the ground. While I was in the hospital, he took photos of me lying motionless in the sickbed, uploaded them online, and fabricated a story that I refused to fund his education, ruining his entire life. At that point, I became a wicked mother in everyone's eyes. Netizens were outraged. Some even incited him to pull my breathing tube. Incited, he really did remove my oxygen mask in the middle of the night, then strangled me with his bare hands. When I opened my eyes, I was back on the day before my son started college. My son, Ben, stood on the windowsill, raising his voice to threaten me again. If I didn't send him abroad for study, he would jump. Tears welled up in my eyes. I flung the window wide open. "Go on, son," I said. "After the Kingaming Festival, I'll be sure to burn plenty of spirit money for you." "Mom, I don't want to go to that crappy vocational college. I'll end up like you, toiling away my whole life. Withdraw all the money from your savings and send me abroad. If you don't, I'll die right here in front of you." The familiar voice echoed in my ears, pulling me from my dazed dream, freeing me from the choking sensation of death. Before my eyes was still the same greedy, distorted face of my son, Ben. Looking at his still youthful features, I realized I had been reborn. In my past life, it was this very Ben who threatened his own life to coerce me into giving him all our savings so he could study overseas. What mother could bear to watch her child die before her eyes? I bit my lip, withdrew 1.5 million from my savings, and chose the best school for him. Unexpectedly, he took the remaining money abroad and squandered it all within a year. When he first returned home, I thought he was just back for a holiday and didn't think much of it. But gradually, seeing him stay home for too long and refusing to leave his room, I realized something was wrong. By then, it was too late. "Why aren't you saying anything, Mom? Do you really want to see me die right in front of you? What kind of mother is like you in this world?" Ben, seeing no reaction from me, quickly extended one leg outside the window, his hand still gripping the frame. Watching his deliberate movement, I couldn't help but inwardly mock my past foolishness. Previously, I would have pretended to wipe away tears, then opened the window further, begging, "Go on, son. I can't bear to see you suffer at home. I'll burn plenty of spirit money for you, so you can be reborn as a good person in your next life." Ben didn't react in time, momentarily stunned. "What are you talking about, Mom?" I ignored him, covering my face with my hand, afraid I might laugh aloud. "Go, son, don't worry about me. I can live perfectly well on my own." Ben panicked even more, withdrawing his leg, intending to climb back into the room. But his foot slipped, and he tumbled down. Instinctively, he grabbed my wrist. The weight of an adult man was immense. If I hadn't quickly grabbed the window frame, I would have been dragged down with him. Mom, I don't want to die, I regret it. Please pull me up." "Son, hold on tight, I'll pull you up." I feigned an attempt to pull him, but actually took the opportunity to let go, letting him fall. Heaven had given me a second chance at life. For this ungrateful wolf to die would truly be a blessing for me. A scream echoed from downstairs. In the hospital bed, Ben was wrapped tightly like a mummy, only his face exposed. My house was only 3 stories high. With luck, he wouldn't die. In my previous life, I had easily succumbed to his ploy, giving him all my money, only to lose my own life in the end. A mother's boundless love truly blinds one's eyes and reason. Beside the hospital bed, I munched on sunflower seeds and watched a drama, occasionally nodding along with the dialogue. The door to the hospital room was then abruptly pushed open, with no gentleness whatsoever. I turned to look, a sunflower seed shell still clinging to the corner of my mouth. My eyes met those of a flamboyant woman, adorned with gold and silver, heavily made up. She surveyed the room with a gaze so contemptuous it seemed to drip onto the floor. Before I could even speak, A man carrying numerous bags, large and small, emerged from behind her. It was Charles, my ex-husband, with whom I had lost contact long ago. The moment Charles saw me, he who had been stooping subserviently suddenly straightened up. He glanced at Ben, wrapped like a mummy in the bed, then rushed over, a wide smile plastered on his face. "My precious son, why has your mother taken such poor care of you? Dad's here now, I'll take care of everything for you." Ben, who had been sulking on the bed just moments before, now saw his father and his eyes welled up with tears. It was a dramatic scene of deep father-son affection. Charles glared at me, Mei Chao, then raised his voice. "What kind of mother are you? I haven't seen you in a few days, and you've already driven your son to jump from a building? How can such a heartless mother exist in this world?" After all these years, I almost burst out laughing. That year, after Charles got involved with Queenie, the daughter of a wealthy client, the first thing he did was transfer all our joint assets elsewhere. While I was on a business trip, he abandoned 5-year-old Ben, packed his things in the night, and fled. When I returned home, all that was left was the hungry boy, gnawing on the walls, and a signed divorce paper. Even the soap dish was empty. I raised Ben alone, growing him up, even saving $1.5 million for his future. Nearing his college entrance exams, what I got in return was his ingratitude. Looking at the man before me, I sighed. These father and son were truly two peas in a pod, selfish to the core. I didn't bother to argue. Instead, I flicked a sunflower seed shell onto his foot, adopting the demeanor of a sharp-tongued woman. "How I raise my son is none of your business. If you have something to say, say it. If not, take your wife and get out." Inwardly, I deliberately tried to provoke Charles, guessing his intentions. As expected, he immediately flared up. "What kind of talk is that? I heard my son wants to study, wants to advance himself, and you, as his mother, are holding him back. No more talk. From now on, my son will live with me. As for that $1.5 million, transfer half of it to me so I can pay for his education. If you won't take care of him, I will." Charles's words almost made me laugh aloud. These two, husband and wife, were clearly called here by Ben. Charles wanted to claim his son for old age support and also eyed the money in my savings account. Before I could reply, Queenie, the woman standing next to him, spoke coldly. "Honestly, sister, you ran off and couldn't even raise your own child. To be such a woman is truly a failure. Our family doesn't lack that $750,000, but this is your responsibility as a mother. Consider it a lesson for you." As she stepped in, a smell like grilled lamb skewers and heavy spices assailed my nostrils, almost suffocating me. I recoiled a few steps. Charles, thinking I was scared, pressed on. "Do you regret it now? It's not too late. Let our son return to the family. I'll even leave half the money for you to buy a coffin when you die." I endured it time and again, but in the end I burst into laughter. As I laughed, bending over, Charles's expression immediately changed. He pointed a finger at my face and yelled, "You shameless woman, so you have a bastard child outside. Today I'm taking Ben to change his household registration. With a mother like you, how could my son ever turn out well?" Hearing his words, I just sneered coldly. "People like you have such dark hearts that you see everyone as scum. You're quite the schemer, aren't you? I worked so hard to raise my son, and you think I'll just hand him over?" As soon as I finished speaking, Ben struggled to lift his bandaged hand. "Dad, I want to go with you. Dad, please take me. As long as you're willing to pay for my studies, I'll definitely be filial to you in the future. You're the best dad." "This is my good son." Charles clapped his hands in satisfaction. "I'll take you. Once you recover, we'll finalize the household registration change." Looking at Charles's undisguised smug face and Ben's greedy eyes as he looked at Charles and Queenie, I could only sigh. The power of genetics was truly strong. During Ben's hospitalization, Charles and Queenie visited more and more diligently, fearing their golden goose might fly away. They wholeheartedly took care of the boy. I seized the opportunity to completely hand over Ben's care to them and secretly searched for a new home to move into. Reborn, I valued my life above all else. Keeping a killer in my house? Thinking it over, the best strategy was simply to leave. Charles wanting to claim his son was truly a pillow delivered when I was sleepy. As soon as Ben could get out of bed and walk around, Charles eagerly called me to finalize the procedures. I cooperated, both pushing and pulling, to complete the household registration change. Receiving the new household register, I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Ben, seeing my seemingly unhappy expression, thought I regretted losing him, and immediately sneered. If you'd obediently given me the money for overseas study before, wouldn't it have been better? Now the money still has to be paid, and don't expect me to take care of you in the future. He hooked his arm around Queenie's and lifted his head high. Mom, let's go. From now on, my stepmother is my only mother. I turned away, unable to help but wonder how I could have given birth to such an ungrateful child. Back home, I immediately rushed to pack my belongings. I had listed the house with a real estate agent long ago, and a buyer had been found. All that was left was to complete the paperwork, and I would move to another city to start a new life. Unexpectedly, less than a week later, Charles showed up with his whole family, pounding on my door. Early in the morning, I was woken by the knocking. When I opened the door, oh dear, it was the usual suspects again. Charles, his wife Queenie, with her lamb stew smell, and Ben were standing right there. Behind them, even Charles's mother, Grandma Lily, was present. Charles narrowed his triangular eyes and spoke in a slurred voice. Look at how you raised your son. Where's this prestigious university he got into? He only passed vocational college, and yet he dares to demand money from us? You raise your own son, and that $800,000 not a penny less. In less than a week, the amount had mysteriously increased by $50,000 through Grandma Lily's mouth. Looking at Ben's disheveled appearance, I had already guessed what happened. It turned out this little wolf had fabricated a story about getting into a prestigious university to trick his father into signing the household registration transfer. Seeing him lower his head and try to step inside, I raised my hand to stop him. His household registration has been transferred. What do you mean, my son, now? Isn't he the treasure you cried and fought to snatch away? Is my house a children's orphanage? Even if it were, you'd have to wait for his father to die before sending him here. Ben's face turned pale. He clearly hadn't expected me to actually prevent him from entering the house. Mom, how can you? I cut him off. I remember you said the other day that you only have one mother now, didn't you? Isn't your only mother standing right here? Don't get confused again. I glanced at Queenie. Today, she looked completely different from a few days ago. Her face was no longer heavily made up, and her hand was resting on her back. Her plump and slow movements clearly indicated she was pregnant. Charles immediately shielded Queenie behind him, but with his slight build, he couldn't even cover half of her. Queenie, meanwhile, beamed, nestling behind him like a small bird. That's enough. You raised your son into this state, and you still think you're right? You need to come with us to change the household registration back. And that $800,000, transfer it too. How much can vocational college cost? Consider this money compensation for our family's losses. Having said that, Charles shamelessly tried to walk into my house. I stopped pretending. I immediately delivered a kick straight to his sensitive spot. You think I'm easy to bully, huh? Grandma Lily was about to scream, but was cut off by Charles's agonizing yelp and my furious curses. Even the dogs downstairs were startled by the commotion and barked wildly. Charles clutched his groin, scrambling to get up, then lowered his voice. Let me in. Once I'm in, I'll deal with you, you corrupted woman. I pulled out my phone, dialed 113 emergency number, and held it up to him. I am the owner of this house. Let's see who dares to take another step in here today. I'll call the police immediately. Charles's face turned beet red like pig's liver. Grandma Lily couldn't hold back anymore. She plopped down on the ground and began to wail dramatically. Oh, heavens, how can life be so hard? Such a good child ruined by her. He lied, and now she throws him back at our family. She took $1.5 million and spent it all. There's no morality left. Grandma Lily was a countrywoman who didn't care about maintaining appearances like Charles. More and more neighbors gathered to watch. Seeing their strange looks, I immediately understood the situation. Watching her twist white into black so smoothly, I decided to follow suit. I sat down on the ground. Your family's good son refused to study, threatened his own mother's life to get money for overseas study. His father cheated and abandoned us 3 years ago, and now he's back to claim the child. His household registration has already been transferred, and you still want me to pay to support him. That money was every single penny I saved. It didn't just fall from the sky. What kind of logic is this? I was naturally strong and had a loud voice, and a few sentences from me drowned out the old woman's wails. The neighbors' gazes now held only sympathy for me, while Grandma Lily was met with criticism. Indeed, fighting fire with fire was the most effective method. Seeing that this trick wasn't working, Charles quickly pulled Grandma Lily and Queenie away. Ben ran after them, constantly looking back at me with eyes full of resentment. I slammed the door shut, and peace reigned for a few days. A few days later, the real estate agent brought the buyers to finalize the paperwork. That day, I woke up early and packed my belongings, just waiting for the contract to be signed and the ownership transferred so I could leave immediately. The buyers were a young couple. As soon as they entered the house, they paused for a moment when they saw me. Initially, they had only intended to meet to hand over some household items. Unexpectedly, after just a few words, they found an excuse to leave. I didn't understand what was happening. Just as I saw them out the door, the agent sent me a message. "Sister, have you been online recently? The buyers said they don't want to sign the contract because of something they saw. I'm not clear on the details, you should check online." Looking at the message from the agent, I frowned. An ominous feeling suddenly rose in my heart. I checked online, and indeed, it was just as I had suspected. Ben had secretly taken a photo of me and Grandma Lily during our heated argument the other day, then posted it on a large forum. The title of the post was, "I worked so hard to get into a prestigious university, but my mother refuses to pay for my studies. What should I do?" In the post, Ben painted himself as an unfortunate child, with a father who abandoned the family and a mother who was promiscuous, while he himself was an independent and resilient son. He claimed that he had even threatened his own life to persuade his mother to let him study, but in the end, she remained cold and helpless, refusing to assist. Reading the post, I couldn't help but laugh openly. In the comments section, many people, without knowing the truth, began to attack me. "I've seen many women like this. His father must have suffered greatly to encounter such a worn-out shoe. It's normal for him to cheat. I wouldn't tolerate it either. Look at her, the men she's with must be starving." I couldn't help but sigh, marveling at the solidarity of men online. Ben hadn't seen his father since he was 5 years old. After Charles left, I, a single mother, had to bear the burden of raising my son alone. To provide for him, I was forced to quit my job as an editor at a financial magazine and switch to being a sales executive, saving every penny for his future. Unexpectedly, just one careless moment when I accidentally revealed my savings passbook, the boy immediately started scheming and planning to seize it. I, the mother who had raised him single-handedly, simply because I couldn't satisfy his greed, became the greatest villain. Meanwhile, his father, who had abandoned him as a child, was portrayed as helpless and unable to do anything. This post was republished by major media accounts, causing an uproar across various social media platforms. In the comments section, insults targeting my physique and appearance were rampant, and there were countless malicious fabrications. I smiled coldly. I screenshotted every insulting and defamatory comment, then reported it to the police. Under police advice, I had all the collected evidence notarized, just waiting to hire a lawyer and go to court. Late that night, I lay on the sofa, pulling out the photos I had taken with Ben over the years. The paper shredder whirred. As I came to the last photo, my hand paused. In the picture, I was holding Ben when he was 1 month old, my face full of the happiness of a first-time mother. The person who took that photo was not Charles. At Ben's 1-month celebration party, less than half an hour after it began, Charles was already red-faced and roaring drunk with a group of friends, pulling them off to a massage parlor across the street. This photo was taken by Ben's godmother, Grace. But now, the child I once held in my arms like a treasure had become my killer in the previous life. The close friend who had taken this photo had also gradually drifted away from me. I sighed, feeding the last photo into the shredder. The machine stopped humming, just as my phone pinged with a WeChat notification. I opened it, and unexpectedly, it was a message from Grace. She sent me a screenshot of recent posts related to me, followed by a question mark. "Long time no see, and you've let this ungrateful wolf walk all over you?" I didn't know how to respond, but tears that hadn't fallen in a long time began to stream down my cheeks. In my past life, when Ben forced me to work 3 jobs to pay off his debts, when I was slandered and insulted by others, I never shed a tear. Yet, with just one seemingly casual question from Grace, I immediately couldn't hold back anymore. After calming down, I texted her back, "I am a failed mother and a failed woman." Perhaps Grace was angered by my response. She sent another question mark, then said nothing more. I scrolled through the screen, rereading our old messages. Grace and I met in middle school. Whenever I was bullied, she always stood up for me. To thank her, every day after school, I would bike her all the way home before returning to my own cold house, where no one even left a light on for me. That's how we went to college together. She studied law, I studied finance. Both of us were top of our departments. Afterward, she quickly got an internship at a renowned law firm. Even though she had to pay out of her own pocket, she persevered in her career. I worked as an editor at a financial magazine. On weekends, I would invite her out for delicious meals. We'd eat skewers and sketch out our future dreams. That closeness lasted until I met Charles. That year, I was completely swept away by the beautiful dreams Charles painted, unable to break free. I completely failed to understand why Grace disliked him. After an unplanned pregnancy, I was overjoyed at the prospect of becoming a mother and decided to marry Charles. Although the marriage quickly ended in divorce, I had desperately yearned for a warm home, a house that could hold a light for me. But Grace had advised me to abort the baby. That was the first time we had a big fight. Her sincere advice still echoed in my memory. Mei Chao, listen to me. You've just stabilized your career, and your future holds so many possibilities. This child is coming too soon. But Charles said this is the best time to have a baby. You're only 25, Mei Chao. Any time is the best time for you. Why entrust yourself to a good-for-nothing man and bury your life in the kitchen? That's my dream, my aspiration. You wouldn't understand. Our arguments eventually ended with her angrily leaving. Nevertheless, on my wedding day, Grace still stood behind me. I appreciated her and cherished her even more. At that time, I thought that no matter how much we argued, we would always be best friends, inseparable. Until Ben's one-month celebration party. Less than half an hour after the feast began, Charles was already red-faced and roaring drunk with a group of friends, pulling them off to a massage parlor across the street. In front of friends and relatives, I discreetly reminded him not to go too far. Unexpectedly, he even tried to raise his fist at me. Fortunately, people around intervened. He didn't forget to curse loudly. Look at your belly. You're like this now and still playing the lady with me? Had a kid and now you want to control me? Dream on. He led half the guests away from the party. Of the remaining guests, a few mothers-in-law and sisters-in-law advised me to stay calm, but most gloated, enjoying the spectacle. I forced a smile, using what little dignity I had left as the host to attend to the remaining guests. Then, I carried the incessantly crying Ben, looking for a mother and baby room. The little one must have been hungry. A month-old infant knows nothing but to cry with all its might. Along the way, I carried him, enduring the uncomfortable stares of everyone, walking around several times but couldn't find a mother and baby room. It was then that I realized even a large hotel might not have a safe enough room for breastfeeding. Grace caught up with me. Without a word, she led me into an empty room and told me, "Don't worry, I'll stand guard outside the door." That one sentence brought tears to my eyes. Back in middle school, Grace was once targeted by a group of girls who would block the restroom door or pour water inside whenever she went. At that time, I often said the same thing to her. Now, it was the other way around. She was saying it to me. While I was soothing Ben to feed him, Grace finally spoke. "Mei Chao, is this truly your dream?" The question struck me like a lightning bolt, leaving me stunned and unable to recover. The baby in my arms, now full, bit my skin, making me wince in pain. Finally, I sighed. It's come to this. What else can I do? Through the crowd, I saw Grace's expression. It was many years later that I finally understood its meaning, pity for my fate and anger that I didn't know how to fight back. That day, when the party ended, Grace took the last photo of me. After that, she never initiated contact with me again. We gradually drifted apart. A knock on the door pulled me back to reality. The urgent knocking carried an angry emotion. Fearing it was Charles coming to cause trouble again, I quickly grabbed a kitchen knife and went to open the door. Unexpectedly, standing before me was Grace. "Long time no see, you're so fierce now, daring to threaten people with a knife." I immediately hugged her tightly, tears flowing uncontrollably. She gently patted the back of my neck, a familiar, comforting gesture. "I'm back. You're not a failed woman, your eyesight just wasn't good." It was still her usual tough love way of speaking, but this time, her words filled my heart with immense warmth. This time, Grace didn't just come to comfort me. Instead of playing a supporting emotional role, she took on a more crucial role in this drama. Thus, as my lawyer, Grace became involved in the lawsuit. When the court summons arrived at Charles's house, my phone vibrated incessantly. As soon as I answered, Grandma Lily's scream echoed through the living room. "You vicious woman. Ben only said a few things, and you've driven your own son to a dead end. We won't go to court. If you want to extort money, you need to pick your target. Do you think you can get away with that 1.5 million in alimony? No way. You just wait and see. Your retribution will come." Hearing her, I remembered that sum. I slapped my forehead, laughing coldly. Oh, I almost forgot. Ben's online slander, Charles's real-life extortion, plus all the alimony over the years. I'll settle every single account. Thank you for the reminder. This time, none of you will escape. Before she could yell another word, I decisively hung up. It felt incredibly satisfying. The next day, Ben came to my doorstep. In less than a month, he looked noticeably gaunt. As soon as he saw me, he knelt down. I didn't stop him, guessing that yesterday's call was at his instigation. Now that Charles didn't want to deal with him, only Grandma Lily was willing to rush to the rescue for her precious grandson. "Mom, I was wrong. Please forgive me. Dad doesn't want me anymore. You can't keep pushing me to my death." He sobbed just like he used to when he was a child, and I made him kneel as punishment. All these years, only his body had grown, his mind hadn't gotten any smarter. Truly, all that food he ate was wasted. Seeing that I wasn't moved, he started banging his head on the ground. I watched him coldly. Several dull thuds echoed as his forehead bled from the impact. "I raised you for so many years. You kneeling and kowtowing a few times won't bother me, but do you truly regret it, or do you just want to escape punishment? Both you and I know the truth. Stop acting, I'm annoyed." As I spoke, I moved to close the door, but Ben blocked it. Facing his bloodshot eyes, I already had a bad feeling. Sure enough, Ben pulled a dagger from inside his shirt and lunged straight at me. "You gave birth to me but didn't raise me. How dare you call yourself a mother? You wicked woman, die." Just then, Grace, who was cooking in the kitchen, heard the commotion and rushed out. Without a word, she grabbed a cooking spatula and struck Ben's wrist, then delivered a kick straight to his chest. Ben immediately lost all strength and ability to resist. Grace had studied Taekwondo since elementary school. Dealing with Ben was no different from handling a chick. Before the police escorted him away, Ben's eyes were hazy and unfocused, as if he couldn't find anything to cling to. I merely glanced at him and said coldly, "This time, your charges will probably include attempted murder." At the quick hearing, since I was not seriously injured, Ben was only detained for 3 days. The official court hearing was still about 10 days away. Grace and I were busy collecting evidence and printing documents, and I didn't forget to urge the real estate agent to expedite the house sale. We were so busy my head was spinning. Suddenly, my phone rang. I didn't look at the caller ID, just answered. "Hello, is this Ms. Chow? We're calling from an online loan company. May I ask what Ben's relationship is to you?" The 2 words, loan company, struck my heart like a hammer, immediately reminding me of the cause of Ben's excessive spending in my past life, gambling. I immediately replied, "What you're doing is illegal, you know? Whoever borrowed the money, find them. Don't bother me." Grace took the phone from my hand and said concisely and decisively, "Anything related to my client, please contact her lawyer." The other party immediately hung up, clearly flustered. I laughed, looking at Grace, and gently nudged her shoulder, just like in our school days. I never thought I'd get to use that line. "For anything, please contact my lawyer?" We looked at each other and burst into laughter. On the day of the trial, Grace and I had prepared early and arrived at the courthouse well in advance. Unexpectedly, even after the judge had taken his seat, Ben still didn't appear. Grace called him, but as soon as he heard the word court, he immediately hung up. After that, he wouldn't answer, no matter how many times she called. Grace could only offer a bitter smile, while the judge's face turned dark. The judge immediately proceeded to trial based on the evidence we provided. With numerous charges piling up, Ben was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Charles and Ben were ordered to compensate me for economic losses and send me a formal apology. Stepping out of the courthouse that day, the sky seemed much bluer. The day I received the verdict, I compiled all my evidence and the details of my counterattack into a video and uploaded it online. Netizens praised my courage and resilience. "This is a truly strong woman. That kind of ungrateful wolf is used to slander. With this case as a precedent, who would dare to speak nonsense anymore? She's truly the ultimate alpha female." I was busy liking every comment when Grace brought more news. Ben had stabbed Charles and Queenie, sending them both to the hospital. I was stunned for a moment, but not entirely surprised. I was the one who understood Ben's true nature best. When I inquired further, I learned the full story. It turned out that Ben's failure to appear in court was Charles's idea. Charles was a coward who always ran away from problems, never confronting them. From the moment he cheated with Queenie and couldn't be upfront with me, just quietly leaving the house, it was clear he was the type to flee from any issue. He taught Ben that lesson as an all-purpose life skill. But he hadn't expected that this country had a complete legal system. Ben's absence from court had no impact on the final verdict. He was still sentenced to 3 years in prison. Hearing this news, how could Ben not go crazy? Not to mention, since moving in with Charles, he hadn't enjoyed many days of comfort. Initially, he used the excuse of getting into a prestigious university to trick Charles into hastily signing the household registration transfer. Seeing Queenie adorned with gold and silver, he thought that clinging to his father would guarantee an easy life. Unexpectedly, soon after, Queenie discovered she was pregnant. Before the baby was even born, Ben was relegated to an outcast in the house. Forget studying abroad, he wasn't even allowed to attend vocational college. When he tried to come back to me but failed, he wandered into a nearby district and got involved in gambling. Fate, indeed, is a strange thing. Even without money in his pocket, Ben still managed to find his way to such blood-sucking places. Gambling, losing 9 out of 10 times, he plunged into mounting debt and had to return to his father for help. But with a stepmother, he effectively had a stepfather. His half-sibling was already 6 months old. Charles flatly refused to give him a penny, telling him to figure it out himself. Even Grandma Lily was ordered to stay away from him. Since being forbidden from caring for her precious grandson, Grandma Lily had no way to intervene. Ben, who had been pampered and given everything he wanted when he lived with me, could not endure being abandoned like this. On the day he received the court verdict, he bottled up all his old and new grudges, then grabbed a fruit knife and stabbed the father he had once longed to be close to. Even the pregnant Queenie didn't escape. He stabbed her, causing her to lose the baby. Both Charles and Queenie were critically injured and hospitalized in the ICU. Their lives were saved, but the consequences were severe. Queenie could never have children again. At that point, the court's verdict against Ben became less significant, as he now faced a much more serious legal prosecution. As all the slanders dissipated, the small house that had been my companion all this time was finally sold. On moving day, besides essential items and clothes, I didn't take anything else. The memories in that 2-room house were too heavy. I decided to leave them behind, along with the house. Before leaving the city, I went to see Ben one last time. By then, Charles had not survived. He passed away after 2 days in the ICU. Queenie had lost her ability to conceive. And Ben, for the serious crime of intentional homicide, was sentenced to death with a 2-year reprieve. Through the glass partition, I looked at his despondent, lifeless face and smiled. I had waited for this day for a long, long time. "Mom," he began to cry, speaking with a choked voice. "I'm sorry, Mom. I was possessed by a demon back then. Mom, save me. I don't want to die." Looking at his complicated eyes, I knew he had remembered his past life, remembered how he had personally killed me. I found his shamelessness amusing. "Why do you think I would save someone who killed me? Do I look like the Virgin Mary to you?" His eyes red and despairing, he lowered his head, burying his face in his hands and sobbing. Why? You used to love me so much, Mom. Just because I made one mistake, do you really want to watch me die with your own eyes? What kind of cruel mother is there in this world?" Looking at his angry and helpless demeanor, I only felt a deep bitterness well up inside me. If I could, I truly would want to witness your execution with my own eyes. I took a deep breath, delivering my final words to him. My biggest regrets in life are 2. 1, meeting Charles, and 2, giving birth to you. Ignoring his wails behind me, I turned and walked away, leaving the police to pull him back and maintain order. Grace was waiting for me outside, carrying 2 large bags of luggage. Seeing me, she widened her eyes. "Why did you even go to see that ungrateful wolf? If it were me, just looking at him would make my eyes feel dirty." I gave a faint smile. Isn't it only when you see a dog fall into the water that you truly know it's going to die? Huh? Grace raised an eyebrow at me. But I remember you weren't like this before. I walked a few steps, the distant sunset reflected in my eyes. The person I used to be, she's already dead. Grace tapped my forehead. Say something nice for once. Hurry up or we'll miss our flight. Now that we're going to Haicheng, you owe me a meal. Have I ever let you go hungry? After arriving in Haicheng, I found a more relaxed job than my previous sales position, which had been too demanding. In this life, I just wanted to live a bit more comfortably. Unexpectedly, on the day I was delivering documents to a client, I inadvertently witnessed a street brawl. A man sat in a car, smoking, while outside, a crowd gathered around a furious woman who was grabbing another girl's hair, slapping her repeatedly over a dozen times. The man in the car remained still, completely unresponsive to the scene. Unable to bear the sight, I immediately called the police. The police arrived and dispersed the crowd. As people scattered, I realized that the woman who had been slapped repeatedly was Queenie. I stood there, a mix of indescribable emotions. Afterward, I went into a convenience store by the road, bought a bag of ice, and walked over to her. She was sitting, dazed on the curb. She was clearly a little surprised to see me, but said nothing, just took the ice pack and began to apply it to her face. After a while, she finally spoke. I didn't know he was married. I paused for a moment, then shook my head. It's okay. Whether she was talking about Charles or the man in the car who coldly watched her get beaten, it no longer mattered to me. Their true natures were all the same. Thank you, Queenie said with difficulty, uttering the 3 words. Then she stood up and walked away, heading in the opposite direction from me.